Who are you? The table was gathered with 4 individuals. 3 of them looked distinguished, dressed impeccably in suits. Some wore glasses, most of them of age. They had regal bearing, noble bearing, intelligent, wealthy-looking men. The 4th man looked less impressive, dressed ordinarily and plain. A young-looking face, but jovial, a happiness about his eyes, a spark, a glint. The other 3 knew each other. They pretended to like each other, but they all secretly disliked one another. Joel, Amos, and Enoch, known amongst the church. They had clear roles. Joel was known for being devout and fervent. He was there on time every service. He was the first one. Everyone saw him, knew him. He was also known to scold people who didn't attend every meeting, didn't attend every prayer meeting, had a word for anyone who wasn't pulling their weight as an attendee and a congregation member of the church. Amos was a man of power. He had climbed through the ranks within the church, making connections, wanting to be seen as in with the senior pastors. It was important to him to be voted as a board member. It was important for him to have some sway and pull in the decisions. He wanted to be in the room where decisions were made. And Enoch, he was somebody who knew scripture, understood scripture, could quote it backwards and forwards. He had read every book of the history of every single book in the Bible, every concordance, he owned it, every commentary, he read it. Of course, he was a theological scholar and had been to Oxford. He was well known and was currently a professor teaching theology. And so he deemed himself an expert. All 3 men, according to themselves, were important. And yet the 4th man, Leo, he was a simple steward in the church. He did his duty every week, welcomed people to their seats, and that's all he did. He attended every Sunday when he could. Sometimes he attended the prayer meetings, but he always had a smile on his face and a kind word for every person that entered into the church and left. He greeted people who were new. Everyone knew Leo. So all 4 men waited. Leo drummed his fingers nervously on the table. They had all been called by Pastor Jenkins. Apparently a visitor was coming to the church, and this visitor wanted a cross-section of each person. Each demographic of the church needed to be represented at this meeting. Leo wasn't sure why he was here, but Joel, Amos, and Enoch knew they should be there. The minutes drew by, ticking, 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 and ticking. Soon, the doors opened, and in strolled Pastor Jenkins. His face looked nervous. You could see beads of sweat. And behind him looked an interesting man. Long hair. There was nothing particularly special about him, noted Joel, Amos, and Enoch. But he came in and it must have been important. Pastor Jenkins greeted everybody, including the guest. Didn't introduce the guest though, but invited the guest to sit down at the table with the 4 men. And so the 6 of them sat down. "I've called you all here," began Dr. Jenkins, for he was a doctor and a pastor, "because this man next to me, this great man next to me, has asked to meet key people within our church, and you 4, I think, best represent our church. So I want you to explain who you are." One by one, they explained. Joel began. He mentioned how long he'd been in the church, how his father's father's father had been in the church. They'd established things. He talked about how he was faithful every Sunday. He talked about how he was there to make sure everybody was doing what they should be. He was vigilant that way. And next it went on to Amos. Amos talked about his rise up through the church rankings, how he started off as somebody simply attending and then slowly but surely became a board member, and the power he had within the church, his importance, shared all of that. Enoch also effusively mentioned how he was a biblical scholar. He hadn't involved himself in any ministries, but he knew the Bible, and he could easily be called on if need be. He was able to check things if need be. He was a walking, talking concordance, according to himself. And he emphasized how much he knew and how much he had read. And finally, we got to Leo. 3 other men looking at him dismissively, not understanding why Leo was at the table. And Leo explained very simply that he was a steward at the church. His role was to greet and welcome people. That's all he did. But he was excited to see people, and he loved meeting them and sharing the love of God with them. That was his role. And that's who he was. The man looked at each of the 4. Then he looked at Pastor Jenkins. And then he looked at the 4 again, one by one. He looked at Leo. Leo looked back to him. Something was familiar about this man. Leo quickly piped up. "I'm so sorry, but do I know you? You look so familiar. There's something about you that I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like I've either met you before. I'm so sorry, but I feel like I know you. Have you come to the church?" "Yes," the man said. "I've been several times. I've seen you. I've seen all of you. But I have met you, Leo, and I do know you." "It's funny," Leo said. "I just can't place your name. I've not given you my name, Leo. But I do know you." The other 3 looked at each other confused. "I've never seen you," said Enoch. "I mean, I'm constantly involved in the biblical teachings, but I've never seen you at the church before, and I feel like I know everyone." "Well, I definitely know everyone," said Amos, "and I've never seen you here." "But you've seen us. You must have slipped in and slipped out." "Yes, you must have," agreed Joel. Pastor Jenkins looked nervously at the man. "If I tell you who he is, you'll never believe me." The other 3 men looked at him quizzically. "What are you talking about, Pastor Jenkins? I'm confused as to why you're speaking like this, and what are we doing here? What's the reason that we're here? I asked your pastor to show me a cross-section of your church. He did. And I've asked each of you, who are you? And you've shown me who you are. It's interesting. Joel, you are a religious man. You're fervent in your religion. You're a Pharisee. Amos, you're a man of power. You're a Sadducee. And Enoch, the biblical scholar, you're a scribe. Woe unto you, because I don't know any of you. Yes, I've seen you, but I don't know you. Who are you? Began Joel, to speak to us like this. You come into this meeting, into our church, dressed not impressively. You've not even presented yourself well. I don't even know why Pastor Jenkins have allowed you into this place, and yet you insult us by calling us biblical names, Pharisees, Sadducees, scribes, and then you say woe unto us? How dare you? Shouted Joel. Joel, calm down. Calm down, soothed Amos. This man doesn't know who we are. He's just speaking, talking to hear himself talk. Don't pay him any attention. I agree. This man is nothing to write home about, echoed Enoch. I wouldn't give it another thought. The man turned and looked at Leo. I know you, Leo. You're a believer. And I know your heart. Your heart for God. Your heart for other people. You see, gentlemen, my name is Yeshua. The table went silent. Yeshua? Repeated Enoch nervously. Yeshua. You may know me as Jesus. You may know me as the Messiah. You may know me as the Lamb. That's who I am. And I know who you all are. But I only know one of you. Leo, I know you. So I ask you again, think very carefully from this moment forward. Who are you? Thank you for listening to this episode. This episode was actually inspired by an actual Bible study that I did earlier this week about the Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes, and the different factions within Israel and what they all stood for. The Pharisees were religious, the Sadducees were about power, and the scribes were about the law. But none of them worshipped God truly. And I would put it to you, listeners, who are you? Are you a believer? Those of us who are believers or who attend church, ask yourself, do you know Christ? Does he know you? Are you truly a believer? And those of you who are listening for the first time and have never heard the gospel, have never given your life to Jesus Christ, as I always say at the end of my episodes, today is the day of your salvation. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord and you believe it in your heart, you shall be saved. So I urge you, as time is short, to give your life over to Christ. He loves you. He wants to have a relationship with you. And as I said in my episode, he wants to know you. Thank you for listening. God bless.